Hello, thank you for taking the time to watch my video. I thought I was done with this video. I actually sat down and started editing, and then some new information came to light, and I came back to add this new intro, and I'm not going to waste your time. Here's the Cliff Notes version if you want to watch the whole video afterwards. I take my truck to Jeremy from Auto at Fasterproms. I pay originally $10,000 to get a supercharger package and exhaust put on my truck. It turned into a 3-month nightmare. The original package included injectors and a larger throttle body. He later sold me more injectors, which he never installed. He later told me I needed a larger throttle body, which I paid for a second time around. He says he added an ADM fuel pump in the fuel tank. I have not dropped the tank yet to see if that's in there, but if the injectors aren't in there, I don't think that the ADM pump's in there either. The supercharger locked up, and he told me he was going to swap it out, and I have proof that he did not swap it out. It's the same supercharger that it locked up on me. And I carried this camera that I'm recording this with me every visit. I did mostly texting, not calling, and I can prove everything that's in this video. So this is bad to the tune of $15,000, and now I need a new engine. So take the time to watch my video and leave a comment. Tell me what you think. I'm still within I'm still within time frame that I can actually sue for this. So if you think there's a case here, and maybe I should pursue legal action, leave a comment. Let me know. You know, when you have a person that just keeps poking you and poking you and poking you, and eventually you break. That's what's happened here. It's not a person, it's a situation. And no matter how much I've tried to get out in front of it and get away from it, it just keeps poking me. So me posting this video is just a little bit of peace of mind. Maybe I can prevent this from happening to somebody else. Also, I'd like to apologize for blaming Cleetus McFarland in my thumbnail. That was just a little bit of clickbait. Garrett and the guys at Cleetus camp, really, I have no problem with. They haven't done anything wrong. I mean, look, I'm wearing an LS George shirt right now. I buy their merchandise. I attend their events. I watch all their videos. But if it weren't for Garrett and the Cleetus crew, we would not know who Jeremy is. I wouldn't, as well as most of the country. He kind of put Jeremy on the map as far as that goes. Got his YouTube channel off the ground. 300,000 subscribers. I would say majority of them came from Cleetus. But anyway, so to blame Cleetus is equivalent to blaming your best friend for setting you up with a girlfriend that just didn't work out. But I wanted to kick off my YouTube channel, so that played a big role in me doing business with Jeremy. I figured I would go down to Florida, I'd meet Cleetus and hang out with all the guys there, and maybe do some collaboration down the road. Take the race boat down and let Cleetus drive it. You know, he's more than willing to just jump in anything and drive. So that was my plan. And then I get down there to start this little transaction with Jeremy, and I find out that him and Cleetus had a falling out. That literally happened right about the time I started this whole venture. And by that point, I'm already invested, so I might as well ride it out. You know, me looking for personal gain maybe ultimately caused me personal heartache. That's how I wound up doing business with Jeremy. And just please listen to the rest of the story, and you'll be as dumbfounded as everybody else is that I've told. I actually own a 17 Silverado 2-wheel drive 6.2, kind of the perfect truck for just raising hell in, you know. 2-wheel drive 6.2, I mean, just screams roast my tires. So so I bought this truck for one reason. I knew I was going to do header cam swap and a supercharger one day. So Jeremy had this video up on thumbnail. It's a picture of the Miata, but why we haven't been on YouTube. And he ended that video by saying, hey, I've got 2 LT4 superchargers for sale for a Black Friday sale. One we're going to ship, the other we're going to install. It includes a supercharger, injectors, a larger throttle body, plugs, plumbing, pretty much everything to do the kit. He stated like, hey, this made 675 horsepower on my wife's Escalade, these exact same parts. So he also said 200 overstock, and he said you'll gain 150 minimum with Boost, and go up from there. So I contact Jeremy, and again, he had the same post on Instagram and YouTube. So I contacted him and said, hey, I want to buy the package. And he said, okay, well, we can do it. Do you have exhaust? And I said, well, no, I don't. So I own a big accessory shop here. We customize vehicles. Been doing it since I was a kid. Pretty well known. But it's nice to pay somebody else to do the work for you once in a while. So I told him, hey, I'll go ahead and buy an exhaust system. Paid $1,500 right then so he could get my exhaust on order and have it when I got there. So I drive down, and the original plan was I was just going to wait there while they did the package and hang out in Clearwater area and let them do their thing. And I get there and I decide, I'm not going to linger over these guys' shoulders. I'd rather them take their time and make as much power as they can and feel comfortable that he's not being rushed. So I fly back to North Carolina. A few days go by and Jeremy contacts me, and he says, hey, your truck will be done Monday or Tuesday, the 20th or 21st. So I was like, okay. So I fly back down on the 19th. I go over to the shop on the 20th. Truck looks complete, supercharger's done, looks good, everything looks good, but he's waiting for HP tuners to return my TCM. So apparently on my truck, the TCM had to be reprogrammed by them. So Monday come and gone, didn't happen. Go over there again Tuesday, still no TCM. Jeremy tells me that he's having a little bit of a problem with HP tuners. Apparently they owe him some credits for his advertising and promotion that he does for them, and they're arguing over these credits. So here I am, I'm the victim, waiting for my truck to get my TCM back and my credits to get my truck tuned over their argument. That was just unprofessional on Jeremy's part. He should have said, okay, let's pay to get Joe's stuff done, and I'll deal with those credits. It's not like I was the last person he's using HP tuners on, So he could have used that credit toward a future build or customer. But so that was unprofessional. But Jeremy wanted to go home for Christmas, and I wasn't going to miss Christmas with my family. So I flew back to North Carolina, and I had Christmas. That come and went. And then we get into January, and a few weeks go by, and Jeremy's like, hey, your truck's done, but I haven't had time to tune it yet because the roads are wet. So I said, okay. And he says, also, I think you'd benefit from a larger throttle body. He says, I got some LT4 throttle bodies or Corvette throttle bodies here that we poured it a couple $100 if you want one. So I was like, okay, that's fine, no problem. I don't even think about it at the time. That was advertised in the original parts that he had listed for sale for $8,200. So I told him go ahead and put that on there. So he did. And again, he tells me, he said, look, I haven't been able to drive the truck. The roads have been wet, so I haven't tuned it yet. So January comes and goes. Get into February, and he said, hey, your truck's done. So I tell him at that point, I said, yeah, quit driving my truck. At this point, I've got my first page full of toll tickets where he's been driving this thing, and it wound up being 2 pages of toll tickets. And he's like, they're not tickets, they're just charges. On the drive home, I pass a toll. But the problem is, I'm in North Carolina, you're in Florida driving my truck. I'm not. So yeah, he racked up some toll charges for me. But he wound up driving it and giving me charges for January, February, and March. And I'll tell you how he got into March in a second. So I go down and pick up my truck. Spent about 30 minutes on the road with Jeremy, him driving, showing the truck off. I'm like, okay. So we get back to the shop, and I was like, okay, where's all my factory parts? And he's like, what? And I said, my intake, my injectors, all the stuff you took off, my exhaust. I want it all in case I return my truck to stock one day. I want my parts. And him and Juan are just looking at each other like, oh crap, And the reason was they used my parts on a build they were doing, and I know where my stuff went, but a couple grand worth of stuff he should have compensated for me at that point, but he didn't. So I leave there, and about an hour and a half into the drive, I tell him, man, the exhaust is just making a crazy noise. I think it's the collectors. I don't have a way to tighten it, so I just wanted to let you know. So I keep driving. I'm 6 hours into the drive, somewhere in the middle of South Carolina, and the supercharger locks up at midnight. I pop the hood open, it's on fire. So I'm like, oh crap, I got no extinguisher, there's no water around. I literally peed into a Mountain Dew bottle, punched a hole in the cap, and I get up there and I'm spraying to put this fire out underneath the intake so my truck doesn't burn down on the side of the highway. And I wind up sleeping there on the side of the road that night, and the next morning I wake up and I map O'Reilly's. It was like a mile away. I keep mine broken belt from the supercharger locking up, so I'm not even turning a water pump or an alternator. So I get to O'Reilly's, I take the ICT billet stuff off. I put a stock belt that I had to buy on there because he didn't return mine. I drive back to his shop, and he says, hey, we've got another blower here, we'll get it fixed up, we'll get it on there, it's going to be a couple days. So I fly back to North Carolina again. I'm hanging out waiting for my truck, and then he contacts me second week in February, I believe, and said, oh, back this up, somewhere in there he said, look, we're not moving enough fuel for the E85, you need more fuel pump. So I think I agreed to put an ADM fuel pump in there, and so they did that. And then he says, oh, well, you really need some better injectors, your injectors aren't handling the flow. So I think I paid somewhere between $500 and $800 for injectors. And so then I think on February 10th I fly down to get my truck again. I get there to the shop, I leave with the truck, and I go to Whiskey Joe's in Tampa and at 8. And by the way, when I pick up my truck, he says, oh, well, your muffler was bad, so we put your new one in the back of the truck. Now I've already paid $1,500 for the exhaust system installed, and now he gives me the new muffler to install it myself. So I thought that was kind of weird. But so I go to Whiskey Joe's, I eat dinner, I hit the road, hour and a half into my drive, and it locks up again. Now I'm pissed. So I blow Jeremy's phone up. I said, this is a bunch of bull crap. I said, you just need to buy the truck from me. Give me 40 grand for the truck, and all the money back that I spent with you, and you can have the truck. You like driving it so much, you can keep the truck. Supercharger's locked up tight. I can't turn it with a rag on the pulley. So I stick the belt on there and I start wiggling it back and forth. It's like click, 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 and that's all it would do. So I sleep in a gas station parking lot again. I go over to a parts store. I buy another factory belt, size belt. I take the ICT billet stuff off. I go back to his shop, and he's like, hey, we've got a friend of ours has a supercharger. We're going to get it from him. He winds up with another supercharger. He loans me his truck. That was kind of cool of him. The first nice thing he's done for me. I flew in on the 10th to get my truck. I think it was on the 13th. I go over to the shop. I get my truck. I leave. And again, that's when he told me the new muffler was in the bed of the truck. And I drive all the way home to North Carolina without any more problems. I get here and I don't have E85 here. So a couple days go by. I haven't driven the truck. It's just sitting at the house. And I told Jeremy, I sent him a message. I said, hey, am I safe to drive on 93? And I'm not lean, am I? He said, no, you're good. He said, go ahead and drive the truck. You're fine. Then he calls me up. He goes, look, you got the flex fuel sensor. That's what switches back and forth and prevents, detonation, allegedly. So I leave my house. I drive to my place of business. Again, we own a big accessory shop here. And I take one of my installers for a rip down the road and back. It's literally, I drove mile and a half, came back, did a little burnout in the parking lot, pull up to the shop, and the damn cooling fan's on. I don't think nothing of it. I think, okay, I did a burnout and then immediately cut it off, so it's just hot. So I drive home that night. I go to a friend's birthday party that night, came back home, it's overheated again. I'm just casual driving. So I said, and it's running bad, so I said, something's going on here. So the next morning, I pull the plugs and I do a compression test, and it has pushed the head gaskets out of this thing. So I contact Jeremy. I said, hey, you were wrong. Your tune was bad. I ran on 93 and blew the head gaskets. What are you going to do about it? And he's just like, nothing. Not my problem. So which honestly, really, after what I later discovered, I really think that he hurt the head gaskets when the truck was in Florida, but I can't prove that for certain. I'm mad at the truck. I'm mad at Jeremy. I'm gonna leave the truck sit here. So it's sat here a couple months, and I decided, okay, it's time for me to fix this truck. It's sitting here. I'm making a truck payment on it. So I contact Jeremy and said, look, I'm gonna go ahead and do my heads and cam now. Can I send you my heads and you at least port them for me? He's like, yeah, for $1,100. So I'm like thinking, really, like all the dicking I've just taken over this truck, and all in all, at this point, I've spent about $13,000 with Jeremy on this $8,200 package, and that's not even including gas and hotels and flight. So I'm probably 15 grand in this adventure, and I could have came out so much cheaper just buying a Magnuson or a Whipple and doing it here myself at my shop. So so I'm mad over it. I leave the truck sit a year and a half almost. So it sat from in my driveway, no tags, no insurance on it, March of 22 till last month, September of 23. And I was just mad at the truck. I was mad at the situation. So we had a hurricane coming here, our first of the year. I didn't want it sitting under a tree in the yard, so I had already bought all the parts and had them sitting in my garage here at the house from Brian Tooley Racing to do the job. And I started to do the cam and heads, and I thought about it and I said, you know what? I'm going to return this thing exactly back to the way it was when it left Jeremy's shop. I want somebody to plug it into HP Tuners and verify that he screwed up. So I know he did. I want it on paper. I want proof. So I tore the truck apart. I put a flat edge on the block. I put a flat edge on the heads. Luckily, everything was good there. I put new MLS gaskets in it, GM MLS gaskets. I did use ARP head bolts, ultra torque seal on them. I put the thing back, and a couple things I noticed when I was working on it. One, the 4 plenum bolts across the back were not tight at all. They were loose. Interesting bird. So the plenum bolts were loose. That could have been where some of my my boost was going. And then when I went to pry on one of the headers with a pry bar to get the header away where I could get the head bolt out, the whole motor lifted up. There was no engine mount bolt in the driver's side, and I go to pull the fuel rails out, and I realized these things have never been out of this truck. These injectors are caked with goo and not clean. They're corroded looking. These injectors that I not only were supposed to be included with the kit when I bought it from him, but then he later sells me another set of injectors. They've never been out of these heads. I've got a video. I'm sure I'm posting it right now. And then I run the number on the injector, and it was the stock injector that came in my truck. If that's not shady, nothing is. I cleaned everything up. I put it all back together. The only thing I did change was I got rid of the DOD lifters and put the set of LS7 lifters in it. And I plugged off the oil passages underneath the valley pan. That way, when I do want to put the cam in there, I don't have to pull the heads back off. So I put it all back together. It took me 2 days working in the yard. I don't have a garage here at my house yet. I pull it out front for the storm. Storm goes by. I start driving it Friday. I drove it Saturday, drove it Sunday, just casually. Just making sure that, I get all that old gas out of there and everything. I go fill it up. I go to my son's house. He's 16 years old. He's been wanting to take a ride in Dad's supercharged truck for a long time. I leave his house on a roll, 20 miles an hour. I punch it. It shifts first, second, third. I get off the throttle. It's just rolling white smoke out of the back. I have pushed these head gaskets again. Get it back to his house. I look under there. Not only have I pushed the head gaskets, now I've blown oil out of the crankcase. I filled the exhaust up. So I'm like, this is way worse than before. I was building confidence that maybe the tune was fine, but obviously it wasn't. So I bring it back home. I do a compression test on it. I have 0. So I'm thinking I've just completely burnt holes in the pistons on a couple of the pistons, or burnt the ring lands out of it or something. So I take a borescope. I look inside the cylinder. Slag aluminum slag all over the piston. I can't see where it's come from yet, and the cylinder walls are destroyed. So here I am, $15,000 in a stock supercharger. For some reason, Jeremy's wife's made 675 horsepower with only 7.5 pounds of boost on 93, but I leave his shop with 11 pounds of boost somehow and only making 577. So I don't know where this went wrong at or what exactly I can do about it at this point, but I'm sitting here still making payments on a truck that is blown up in my yard and now needs a new engine, and I can't just take money from other projects I got going on to put an engine in it right now. So I don't know what I'm going to do, but this is probably the single-handed worst screwing I've ever taken. But you know, he's selling me product he didn't install. He's charging me for services he didn't do. I just wanted to share the story. Most valuable lesson here is if you buy something from somebody, make sure you get what you paid for. You know, make sure that they do the job. I should have known not to do it. I'm a motor builder. You know, I build these boat engines for all my race boats, and I don't ever have problems. I'm not very familiar with LT and LS stuff, but hey, there's a plethora of information out there on the internet, and you can learn anything these days. But yeah, I'm gonna I guess put a new engine in the truck when I can afford it, and we'll go from there. Thank you for watching my video.